Hello, it's Reija, and welcome to the first episode of Headcanon Hour, a show that is neither all about headcanons nor an hour long. So what is Headcanon Hour about then? Pretty much I've wanted to have a place on my channel where I can delve into the more spoilery thoughts and theories and discussions about certain books and book series. So, for example, when I do book reviews or when I do my wrap-ups, I will try to keep them as spoiler-free as possible. But sometimes I'm itching to do those spoilery discussions, so that's why I wanted to do Headcanon Hour. So what I'm going to be discussing in this show are things such as headcanons, obviously, which are my personal interpretations of a book's canon. So these are not necessarily the same as predictions and future predictions and theories. These are interpretations on the existing canon that may not be shared by other readers or watchers of the medium. The next things I'm going to be covering on this show are future predictions and theories based on the book I've been reading. So basically these will be my personal ideas of what is going to happen. And finally, I might share some spoilery fan art on this show, or whatever else comes to mind that I wouldn't be able to cover on our non-spoiler section. So, with that all said, let's dive right into the first episode, which is all about A Song of Ice and Fire. So, first things first, I have to say that I actually don't have very many headcanons about A Song of Ice and Fire. Which is funny because I've chosen it to be the first series that I'm going to cover on this show. And the reason I don't have as many headcanons on A Song of Ice and Fire is because Martin's world building is incredibly dense and packed full of information. And I know that some people are able to play around with the material and enjoy it and kind of make their own interpretations of it and kind of play around in the sandbox, no matter how dense or loose the world building is. But for me personally, I need the looseness. Martin has so much information that I don't feel like I have any space to play around with, and I don't feel like I have any kind of loose space to fully make those headcanons and make those character interpretations and such. Because he really goes deep and does these sprawling world building and huge character studies. So it's really difficult to inject myself in that. Whereas, for example, in Harry Potter, Rowling plays very fast and loose with the whole world building in that series. So it is very easy to kind of inject yourself in there. For example, I have many headcanons of Draco Malfoy after he left Hogwarts, for example. So I only have two headcanons of A Song of Ice and Fire. And the first one is that Sarella Sand, who is one of Oberyn Martell's bastard daughters, I'm headcanoning her as a non-binary character. And don't get me wrong, I know that there is probably no way in hell that Martin is ever gonna actually state that they are a non-binary character. It's more than likely that they are a cisgendered character in the canon. But currently, because they have not been established so well yet, I'm kind of allowed to play a little with them. For example, they are currently hiding and studying in the Citadel, where they have encountered Samuel Tarly, and they are presenting themselves as a man. And they seem to be very confident in their masculinity and in that male role. So in that sense, I feel like Sarella Sand would be a very good non-binary character, because they are kind of existing in between the binary and kind of playing all the sides. And I find that fascinating and interesting. But I am not trusting Martin to go that way, or if he did go that way, I am not trusting him to do justice for it. But that is just one of my headcanons. And my other headcanon is that skin changing, which is the ability to cloak yourself into an animal and take possession of an animal. My theory is, my headcanon is, that skin changing is very closely related to faith, and especially the old faith. For example, Bran worships the old gods, Robb Stark worships the old gods, Jon Snow worships the old gods, and all the Stark children, aside from Sansa, have a really close affinity to the old gods of the North, whereas Sansa has always been more inclined to the southern ways and to the faith of the Seven. And Lady was killed before we ever got a chance to see if Sansa was able to do skin changing, to be a warg. But my headcanon is that skin changing is so linked to the old religion and to the old gods that my theory is that Sansa wouldn't have been able to do it, or that she wouldn't have been as adept at it as her siblings, who are much more in tune with the northern ways than Sansa is. That said, I think that Sansa's strengths lie elsewhere. She is a very political player. She is adept at reading people. So in a way, Sansa is kind of skin changing into people without actually skin changing. She is reading people and kind of tuning how they think, how they work, and she's using that against them and to her own advantage. And I can't wait for the next book to see what kinds of things Sansa does. And then I would like to go to some future predictions. And my first future prediction is that Jaime Lannister is the Valonqar. So in Feast for Crows, Cersei is dreaming about a prophecy she was told when she was a small child. And in that prophecy, it was foretold that her younger brother, the Valonqar, would kill her. And everyone kind of is speculating that it would be Tyrion. And in the book, Cersei herself is obsessed with the idea that Tyrion is the one who is going to kill her. But I think that it is going to be Jaime. Cersei has spent the last 2 books ostracizing Jaime. Jaime is kind of disillusioned with Cersei at this point. And Jaime's character arc is going into a direction where I don't think he would be at all agreeable to the way Cersei is doing things. So I think that the way the story is going to end is going to be that Jaime will be the one to end up killing Cersei. But that is not my main theory. My main theory is that Jaime will actually take the black after that. I think Jaime will survive. He will be alive, and I think that he will take the black, and he has the potential to rise to the Knight Commander of the Night's Watch. And the reason for this is that Jaime has just begun to accept his role in the Kingsguard and accept his knightly vows because of Brienne of Tarth. And I would think that it would be a perfect culmination for Jaime's arc to go and serve the realm, to serve in the Night's Watch. I would think that that would be a very perfect ending for him as a character. My next prediction is that Daenerys will be the one to burn King's Landing. In Game of Thrones, the TV show, Cersei is the one to blow up King's Landing with the wildfire. I think in the books it is going to be that Aegon, who I don't actually believe is really Aegon, it's most likely a pawn that Varys and Illyrio have put in play. I think Aegon is going to march into King's Landing. He's going to take control of the city, and then when Daenerys finally comes over from Essos, she and Aegon will have a battle in King's Landing, and not knowing that there is a wildfire, Daenerys is going to end up blowing up the city. And that will play into her kind of character moments where she has to reconcile with the fact that her father was a complete lunatic, and she has the potential to carry the Targaryen madness in her. And if she blows up King's Landing, that will result in a conflict where she will need to prove herself to the citizens, to the people of the realm, that she can still rule and she is still a good person and she isn't like her father. So I think that's how it's gonna play out in that scenario. And then finally, my final future prediction is going to be that Euron Greyjoy is going to be the main human baddie in the books. Euron Greyjoy is kind of written as this sort of eldritch warlock, kind of horrible gothic antagonist. And he is kind of shown to be working towards ending the world, basically. And I think that he is going to side with the White Walkers, first of all, and I think that he is going to do something that will result in the wall getting destroyed and melted down. I also think that Euron Greyjoy is not the type of character who would work well under someone. He is not a pawn. He doesn't view himself as a pawn. He definitely sees himself as a king. So I think that he will try to gain control of the Night's King and of the Wild Walkers and try to kind of make himself the emperor of the undead army. And that will most likely end up going very badly for him. I don't see the Night's King as being someone who can be controlled. But I also don't think that Euron would see it that way. So I think that those two are gonna end up in cahoots, and the other is and the Night's King is going to end up killing Euron Greyjoy. But I also think that Euron Greyjoy will be the main human antagonist to really look out for. And yeah, those are pretty much all of my current predictions and theories and headcanons on A Song of Ice and Fire. As I said, Martin doesn't really let the reader play around in his world, at least not the kind of reader that I am. I don't do well with constrictions and set rules, and there are a lot of fences and borders in Martin's world. So it's kind of like Martin wants you to enjoy it and look at it, but don't touch. Just admire it from afar. That's kind of how I feel about A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm having a lot of fun reading it and analyzing it, but it doesn't really but it doesn't really give me the same kind of titillation of actually coming up with my own interpretations and my own headcanons about how the world works and how different characters would act and what their futures would be and what their paths could be. Because Martin is already filling in those blanks by himself. He doesn't want us to do it. So that's my 2 cents on A Song of Ice and Fire. What do you think? What are your predictions and headcanons? Don't worry about spoilers. I will put spoiler tags in the video and in the title. So spoil away. I've read all the books. So I would be very interested to see what are some of your theories and headcanons. How do you interpret these characters? What do you think about Martin's reactions to fandom-related content and, for example, his ideas about fanfiction and such? I'm interested to know your thoughts. And if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye bye!